Hey y'all, Michelle here with My Designs in the Chaos, where it's our goal to develop, encourage, and grow your crafting talents and confidence. And this month, school is back in session, crafting school that is, and today we're going to be creating the cutest camping shirts utilizing infusible ink. The other day while I was walking through the store, I happened to just wander onto the craft section. Has that ever happened to you? You find yourself walking through there without necessarily looking for something in particular, but just to see if there's anything you might have missed or something that might be really cute that you have to have. Well, sure enough, that happened to me, and I came across the cutest infusible ink patterns. These are all types of camping patterns. They have like a little RV, they have some trees, there's kind of like a little plaid, some little marshmallows, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to have this because my boys absolutely love the outdoors, and this will be perfect for them. Usually I only seem to find things like unicorns and bright colors and pinks and stuff like that, which is fine. One of my sons absolutely loves his rainbows and bright colors, but this was a nice change. I am so excited about what we're going to be able to make together using these adorable infusible ink patterns. Now, what I have here is I have the infusible ink, and then I also picked up 3 shirts, one in each of their sizes. Now, I will say, just kind of as a caveat, that Cricut does have their own specific blanks that you can use with the infusible ink. And they will tell you that the brightest colors and the best final products come from utilizing their blanks. Today, I'm being a little bit of a rebel, and we're going to experiment and utilize this infusible ink on just some basic tees that I got from the boys section at the store. I will tell you that on these shirts, they are, as far as like the count on them, because infusible ink works best when you have a high polyester count on whatever the fabric is that you're using it on. And so for these particular shirts, the count is 60% cotton and 40% polyester. So I will know ahead of time that the colors might not come out as bright and as vibrant as they're looking on here. That's okay. I'm okay with the grunge look, but just know that ahead of time. So if you have a higher polyester count on your fabric, you're going to probably have a much brighter and more of a pop once you actually apply the infusible ink. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove all the tags. Now, I did not pre-wash any of these shirts. I am not a fan of pre-washing. I know that that's a big debate in the crafting world, to pre-wash or not to pre-wash. I personally don't pre-wash, and so that's totally up to you. I encourage you to try it both ways and see what your personal preference is, because everybody's personal preference might be a little bit different. So I'm just going to go ahead here and we're just going to peel the tags off each one of these shirts, and then we're going to just open up that package of infusible ink so that I can walk you through that. And then we're going to head over to our machine and we're going to cut out our 3 different designs. And this one's going to be fun because this one is a colored shirt, so we're going to play that one by ear to see which one looks best on the various shirts. Now, infusible ink, I will say, is very different than vinyl. It's very different in a couple ways. Number one, it's very different in the sense it doesn't actually leave an item on your shirt. It's going to feel much more smooth once it's finished because it's only changing the color of the threads of the shirt. It's not actually leaving an item on there like vinyl is. Now, when you open it up, it comes in this black wrapping. So I'm just going to use my scissors here to kind of cut this open. Make sure you don't cut yourself there. And then we're going to pull it out of the packaging. Now, inside the packaging, you're going to see these sheets that come with it. These are for you to place over the infusible ink while you're pressing your design, because we are going to be having our press at a much higher temperature than we would use for vinyl, and we're going to be pressing it for longer than we would normally do for vinyl. And so this is, instead of a Teflon sheet, this is the paper that you place directly on top of the infusible ink when you're applying it to your shirt. Now, from here, Inside the packaging, you're also going to see this little like rag. This rag is for if you're doing something like coasters or maybe a mug or something like that, you're going to want to wipe away any of the extra lint. We're not going to use this for this particular project because it's a shirt, and so there's not really anything to wipe away here, but that's what that little rag is for. And then we're going to be able to see our different patterns here. Now, some of the infusible inks come in packages of 2, some come in packages of 4, so just kind of be aware of that when you're first picking out which pattern and packaging you're going to use. So here you're going to see it looks a little bit like a different color than what's on the packaging. Don't be alarmed, that's totally normal. It's going to be much more muted before it's pressed. Once you apply the heat to it, that's when you're going to really see the pop come out on there. But again, because I'm not using something that's 100% polyester, it is going to be a little more dull. And I'll let you make the choice at the end if you decide, hey, I still like that look, or nope, I definitely want to go with all polyester items. And so I think what we're going to do is, oh, I love this one. So cute. I'm just kind of looking at the patterns here. This marshmallow one is super cute too. Now, whenever you're working with these types of patterns, a couple tips I have for you, and this goes with infusible ink or regular vinyl, you want to make sure that your design is kind of thick. If you cut something super thin on a pattern like this, it's going to be really hard to tell what is that pattern of. So just keep that in mind whenever you're trying to decide what you're going to cut out. Now, when you're feeling these infusible ink sheets, they're kind of loud there. When you're feeling these infusible ink sheets, they also curl up a lot. So just be aware of that. And then on the back, you're going to see it says Cricut Infusible Ink. It's nice because it does have a grid line on the back. When you peel away this corner here, you're going to feel, it feels like paper. And then I'm just going to peel this away here so that you guys can see. It's really thick, and that's totally normal. It's supposed to be really thick like that, and then you'll see they have the clear carrier sheet on the back. So that clear carrier sheet is actually going to go face down on our mat when we decide to cut it. And so let me go ahead and grab my mat here. And so this is my cutting mat that I like to use. It's kind of dirty. We'll clean it off maybe in a future video. But what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place my pattern here on my cutting mat. And then what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to flatten it out. If you have a brayer tool, like a little, it kind of looks like a rolling pin almost, you can do that. Or you can just use your fingers, that works too. Remember, there's no wrong way to do this stuff, guys. Part of it is just getting in there and trying it out. And so we're going to flatten it out there. You want to make sure that it adheres really well. And again, this shiny side that has that carrier sheet goes face down. And then we're going to cut the design here onto our infusible ink. When you send it to cut, make sure that you mirror your image, which means flip it horizontally like you're looking in a mirror. Because what will happen is you want it to cut backwards, so then when we flip it over to apply it to the shirt, it's the right way. Whereas if you don't mirror it, it'll look correct. When you flip it over, it'll be backwards. So make sure when you're utilizing this infusible ink on a t-shirt, you want to make sure to cut your image flipped, mirrored. So what we're going to do now is let's go ahead and head over to our cutting machine, and I'm going to cut out each of the 3 designs. And each of these 3 designs can be found inside of our Club Chaos membership. And feel free to learn more at the link below. Now, here's a tip for you. When you're trying to figure out how big should your design be, here's what I do. It's really, really high tech. I take my cutting mat and I place it here on top of my shirt, and I see, okay, I want it to be about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes across. And then I make sure in my cutting software, my design is measured to be about 6 boxes across. I know it's not really that high tech, but it works for me, and that way I can get a visual idea of exactly how big I want my design to be. When you're resizing designs, make sure to keep them proportionate. And what I mean is, don't stretch them out really long or make them really tall just to fit your space. You always want to make sure that the length or the width changes proportionately to the other side that you're changing, so that you're pulling on the bottom corner rather than making your design come out all wonky and disproportionate. Now we have all of our designs cut. Now I opted to not utilize this toasted marshmallow one, even though it was so cute. I'm going to save that for a future project when I can get a bigger image on there so you can really see what those toasted marshmallows are. Now it's time to actually weed out our design. And we have an entire video on tips for weeding, so make sure you go check that video out. This infusible ink, if you haven't noticed, it rolls up on itself really easily. So one thing that I like to do whenever I'm weeding infusible ink specifically is I like to weed it on my cutting mat, because that way it stays flat. Some people like to weed everything on their cutting mat. That's a personal preference. It's totally up to you. Now what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to trim off the edge so that I can save this infusible ink section for another project, because it would never hurt to have just a cute little, you know, maybe you want to put it for a campfire, or maybe you want to put it for something else. And so I always save scraps. Now, if you save scraps for a certain amount of time and you don't use them, don't feel confined to having to save them. But I like to save them for just in case. Now, if you don't want to weed on your cutting mat, what you can also do is you can put tape. Let me show you. You can put tape here on the bottom corners of your design to help it stick directly to your table, and that way it also won't move. So it's totally up to you how you want to go about doing it, but the key is to just get it flat, because when you're trying to weed, if it keeps rolling up, that can be really frustrating. So we're going to go ahead and do it this route this time, but again, you can just use your cutting mat as well. That works too. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my weeding tools out. I like to use this dental pick. It's probably my favorite weeding tool. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start weeding out this design. Now, when you weed infusible ink, I will tell you it's a little bit different than when you're weeding vinyl, just because it's so incredibly thick. And so just kind of keep that in mind. So we're going to kind of start this corner here. And it feels like paper. It feels like you are pulling up paper as you're weeding it. And then you can always trim it also as you go. We're going to do this for all three of our different various designs. And that just means we're pulling out all the extra. So that's what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and weed each of these designs. Pro tip for you while you're weeding your design out. Go ahead and turn on your heat press or whatever heating element you're going to be using to apply the infusible ink to your garment. That way, by the time you are finished weeding, you're ready to go and you don't have to wait for it to heat up. Also, while you're waiting, if you can't exactly remember what the design looked like, you can always print out a picture and have that next to you as a reference tool. Okay, so now we've got all of our items ready to go and ready to be applied. So let's go ahead and head over to our heat press where we can actually see the infusible ink in action. And just a reminder, you don't have to have a Cricut to utilize infusible ink. You can cut infusible ink on any cutting machine that you own. Okay, so here we are right at the press. We've got our press turned on to 400. It's already preheated. I've got my T-shirt that I'm going to be applying my infusible ink to, and then I have my infusible ink design. So what I want to do first is I'm actually going to go ahead and give my shirt just a pre-press, kind of just for a few seconds to help eliminate any moisture that might be on the shirt and to eliminate any wrinkles that might be on there as well to make sure that the design is applied correctly. Now, I also have a pressing pillow on here. I like to use that whenever I'm working with kids' shirts. It helps to be able to reach some of the areas that you might not necessarily be able to reach when you have a collar or something. When you have an adult shirt, it hangs over the side, so there's no need for a pressing pillow. But for a kid's shirt, it's a handy thing to have. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and I'm going to fold this shirt in half and give it a little press to kind of give me a center point. Now, if you like to measure, then I recommend get out your ruler right now and make sure that you have it all measured and you have it even on both sides. For me, I'm a big eyeballer, and so I like to be able to just press my shirt, and now it has a little crease right down the middle. And then I'm going to take my design and I'm actually going to crease that as well. I'm going to just fold it in half here and I'm going to put a little crease on there. So then I know where the middle is. And then I'm going to match up this crease I just made with this crease that I have in the middle here. Now, you want to make sure you're putting the side that has the pattern face down onto your shirt. I also like to use the rule of fingertips up at the top for measuring how far from the top should it go. So I'm going to actually go ahead and put it 2 fingertips down for a kid's shirt. Place that where it needs to go. Make sure it's all on the pressing pillow. It's looking pretty good. And then I want to make sure I grab that sheet of paper that came with it from the infusible ink. So once it's located in the correct spot on your shirt, you're going to go ahead and place that sheet on top of it from the infusible ink. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and give it a press. I'm going to press it for 30 seconds. I want to make sure that it has enough time for that ink to soak into my shirt. You want to make sure if you're using an easy press or an iron that you don't move it around. When you move it around, that's when potential shadowing can happen and the design could shift a little bit. And if it shifts, that's when you get the ink moves. So you just want to make sure that you let that kind of stay in place. Now, I'm going to let it cool off just for a second so that I can actually remove it, and then I'm going to go ahead and peel it up. And then this is a one-time use, so you can see how the ink has kind of been removed off of the backing. And now we've got this cute camper pattern on the shirt itself. And if you feel it, it doesn't feel like vinyl, it just feels like the original shirt. Okay, and so now we're gonna do that same process on both the other shirts as well. And like I mentioned, these shirts are not 100% polyester. They are just t-shirts that I got from the local store, and that could be why it's not as bright and shiny as it looks like on the box, but I'm okay with that. I think it looks cute. I like the look of it, and I'm okay with that. So I'm just gonna give it a couple second press so I can get that middle on there. So now I've got that middle crease. And then I want to make sure I'm only applying his one design. I'm going to pull this one over to the side, place this one, give it a little crease so I know where the middle is. And then I'm going to make sure that middle crease is lined up with my middle crease here. Be careful you don't burn yourself. I'm going to use my fingertip rule. His shirt's a little bigger, so I might do like 2.5. And we're going to line up these creases. The cool thing though too about this infusible ink is because it has those grid lines, it's easy for you to be able to see where everything is going. And then I'm going to make sure I put my sheet on top of it that came in the packaging. I also have a Teflon sheet wrapped around the top of my press. I just have that there out of habit. I keep it up there all the time with magnets just so that I don't ever forget and accidentally burn something. Woo, it is hot here next to this 400-degree press. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this paper. Be careful because it is very, very hot. And then we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to remove this off of here. Oh, it turned out so cute. I'm loving these. And then we've got this really cute shirt. Fresh air, scenic views, big stars, and hiking trails. I love it. And then again, there's nothing that's left on the actual shirt. If you look at the papers that the infusible ink, you'll see that's the paper is left on the initial backing. Okay, we've got one more to do. Now this one I'm the most excited about because I'm actually using a colored shirt to do it on. So we're gonna really see here how this turns out. Again, I'm folding the shirt in half. And truth be told, I probably would have gotten a white shirt so that he would match his brothers, but they didn't have any white shirts in his size. So we did the next best thing and got a coordinating color. So now he has a shirt that's the same color as the designs on his brothers, and then they'll all be camping themed. So again, I got that line in the middle. I'm gonna take my design, I'm gonna fold it in half so I can see kind of where the middle is, right about there. Give it a little crease. And now I want to match up that crease I just made with this crease on here. Put it about 1.5 down because it's a little bit of a smaller size than his brother's. And then we're going to place our sheet that came in the packaging of infusible ink right there on top. And again, I'm using that pressing pillow to make sure that it is flat. Otherwise, when you have a collar on a small shirt, sometimes that collar can get in the way of having a good press on whatever the item is you're working on. Don't forget, it's really hot. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna remove the little covering, give it a second to kind of cool down. And this one, I think I'm the most excited about to see how it turned out. Here we go. Oh my gosh, y'all, I absolutely love it. I love this look. How adorable is that? It says, "Let's wander." And so you can see here, again, that coloring is not exactly the same coloring as it was on the box itself, but I'm okay with that because it still looks absolutely adorable. Well, there you have it, the test of infusible ink on t-shirts that are not necessarily Cricut designated, but I think they turned out so cute. I would love to hear your thoughts. Would this be something that you would try? Let me know in the comments below. Also, please feel free to come connect with us over inside our Facebook community and show off your infusible ink projects. I love being able to connect with y'all. Now, I encourage you to stop just collecting and start actually creating. And until next time, remember, there's no wrong way to craft. Bye guys, I'll see you back in class tomorrow.